when I do my analysis videos, I try to be pretty center. I try to be as honest as I can about how I see things going for both parties. And I try not to lean into the more hyperbolic or exaggerated takes from either side, demonizing the other side. But today, because it's the day before Election Day, I want to talk a little bit about how I voted in the presidential election. And I think it will surprise very few people who know me that I voted for Kamala Harris. Not because I think she's going to win Utah, but because I think that the Trump MAGA movement needs to see that it is a losing movement. And so the more people in Utah that vote for Kamala Harris, in my opinion, the better that message gets sent. Hey, you're losing support even among people who normally wouldn't support somebody like Kamala Harris, like me, for instance. I have a pretty strong libertarian streak, and so nationally the Democrats don't appeal to me that well. But there are a few reasons why I would never vote for Donald Trump. And I'll detail those for you, for those who care. For those who don't care, you certainly aren't constrained to watch this in its entirety. The first thing is I didn't vote for Trump the first time around because I felt he lacked character. Based on comments he had made about women, based on the sexual assault allegations against him at the time, which now have resulted in jury trials finding him liable for a rape. I felt like he did not have the character that I felt a presidential candidate needed. And so I did not vote for him the first time around. Now, in his policies, the way he talked about immigration, the way he talked about tariffs, the way he talked about global trade, the way he talked about things like NATO, during his administration, disqualified him, in my opinion, the second time around. So I also did not vote for him in 2020 on those grounds. Finally, this time around, those things are still in place, but now he has something that I think disqualifies him the most of anything that has ever happened in his tenure as the Republican standard bearer, and that was January 6th. And more than January 6th, his attempts to overturn the election through the court system, through a variety of different means, trying to overturn the result of an election. For me, that is a bridge much too far. I could never vote for someone who had done that. And I find that very, very concerning in a lot of ways, even though the courts have shown that they're not really on board with taking democracy away from the American people. The fact that he tried it is yet another tally mark against him, in my opinion. And the other thing now on this campaign, let's pretend like nothing has existed about Trump before today, and he's just running today. I think he wants to do bad things. The 20% tariffs across the board, I don't think that is a good thing. I don't think that's a good idea. Targeted tariffs can be beneficial in some ways if done correctly. But a broad 20% tariff would simply make life harder for people who are already struggling in the United States. That's one idea that I think is a bad idea and a bad thing that should not be done. His ideas about mass deportation of people who have come to the United States not under legal status, right? Illegal immigrants, if you will. I don't think that's a good idea for a variety of reasons. One, when we did that one time, we took a whole bunch of Mexican Americans and sent them back to Mexico with the people who were here illegally. We deported a lot of American citizens simply because they were brown. And I find that to be objectionable. I also think there are, and I know personally, many families that are mixed in their legality, where maybe the mother or maybe the father is a U.S. citizen and the other parent is not a U.S. citizen. Or maybe some of the older siblings are not U.S. citizens and some of the younger siblings are U.S. citizens. And maybe one of the parents is legal and the other one isn't. And you would split these families apart, creating a huge societal problem that didn't exist before. I think that's a bad idea. And then the effects on the economy would be disastrous. Removing all of those people from the workforce who do a lot of our most essential jobs in farming, dairy, construction. These people are the lifeblood of our economy. They do a ton of work here, and they pay a lot of taxes. Believe it or not, illegal immigrants into the US, when they are working, often are paying taxes, and they pay a lot of taxes, somewhere in the billions of dollars per year. That is a lot of money. That is a lot of revenue. You take away all those workers, you take away all that revenue, that is going to have bad effects on the US economy. And so I think those are bad things. Now, I'm not necessarily enamored with Kamala Harris. I am a libertarian at heart in many ways, and particularly at the federal level. I don't like a big, strong federal government. And nationally, that is what Democrats believe in, is that things should be controlled centrally by the federal government. I don't believe in that. However, many of Kamala Harris's worst ideas can only be brought to fruition through acts of Congress, and is unlikely that she will have control over Congress. She will almost certainly have either no control over Congress or only one house of Congress on her side. What that means is she will likely be something of a lame duck president. She won't be able to enact a lot of her more extreme positions. She'll be constrained to only those things that are bipartisan in nature. And as I've mentioned before, when you have a Democratic president who does not control Congress, they are fiscally conservative in their policy because they can't get things through a Republican Congress. That is what I hope for. So I did vote for her at the top of the ticket. I voted for Republicans going down the line, for the most part, with a few exceptions. I voted for a United Utah Party, Michelle Quist for Attorney General, and the Forward Party candidate for the Treasury Secretary here in Utah. But aside from that, I pretty much voted for Republicans because I feel like they align more closely with my vision of what the federal government should be.